Welcome to Photowrk. We got an interview today with beauty photographer Joy Wong.
You've probably seen her work in Ulta Beauty just as one example, and in this episode she shares with us her tips for directing beauty photography.
What got you into beauty photography?
Beauty photography, well, so I started off doing more portrait fashion. So that's what I was doing when I was living in Reno. And then I moved to LA to go to Art Center, College of Design in Pasadena. And I was still kind of like on the fashion path, but and I tried working with stylists here. It was just kind of like a whole new world. Reno is like such a small place, and you know, there's not that many photographers there. It's a lot of like wedding family. So I was just kind of like styling my own shoots and just kind of like buying and returning. And then when I moved here, I tried connecting with stylists, but I kind of was like, it was falling short. LA is a little bit harder, especially for fashion versus New York. So I tried like collaborating with stylists, and it just like was not working. And like the clothes were just killing my shoots. And so that's kind of how I got into beauty photography. I was like, I'm gonna take out the clothing element and just focus on the beauty. And that's kind of like how I got started with beauty photography in particular. So, I mean, I moved here about almost 9 years ago, and then graduated from Art Center in, I think 2014. And then right when I was graduating, that's when I decided I was moving into beauty. Yeah, so that's how I got started. So it's just been doing that since, yeah.
I kind of covered the second question too, though.
Oh, I mean, a little bit, but yeah. I really liked how you were able, like, things weren't working, but then you made it work because it found you. Like, the clothes weren't working, but then, you know, pivot away from that and doing beauty. That's pretty cool.
Yeah, it was just kind of like, all right, it was just like one shoot, like, okay, I'm not going to even have the clothes. And then it just kind of clicked. Yeah, so it was great.
That's pretty
and
awesome.
It just kind of fell in, and like, when I was shooting fashion too, I would only shoot like on location. I hated shooting studio. Like, I just felt smothered. Like, it just like didn't click for me. And then it just kind of like everything like reversed. So, yeah.
Because your beauty obviously is like 99.9% of the time is in studio.
Yeah.
So you did totally flip that. And how did you not feel confined being in the studio versus being on location?
I think I don't know if it was more maybe like I was intimidated with the studio. It was just like I had been shooting on location for so long that like maybe it was the intimidation of the studio. And like I was used to being like outdoors and everything and like scouting it, and yeah, so.
And outdoors is great. It's nice to be in nature.
Yeah, definitely.
Beautiful
And
light.
I still, I'm gonna like start transitioning into more doing like location beauty and everything like that, because
those are gorgeous too.
Yeah.
Location
Yeah.
beauty is amazing.
Born in Reno?
I was actually born in Boston.
Wow.
Yeah, and then I grew up in Reno, and then I spent my senior year of high school in Boston, which is like
That's
random.
Random.
Yeah.
Back and forth.
Yeah, my birth mom's family lives in Boston, and she lives in Boston, so I lived there my senior year of high school. So, and then that's actually when I got into photography too. Yeah, so.
I was in Boston.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, so.
That was one of my questions, is coming from a place like Reno. Like, where did you get even the beauty bug or the photography bug?
Yeah, in that area.
Yeah. I mean, it's a beautiful landscape.
Yeah, but.
There's not a lot of industry there, though.
No, totally not.
Yeah.
Yeah, so I took like a photography class in high school. I wanted to be like a fiction writer from middle school up until like my senior year of high school. So it was just kind of like a weird time because I was like applying to colleges, and then I was like, well, I've been wanting to major in English, but now I'm like trying to do this, but then like I can't really apply to any schools because I don't have a portfolio. So then it was just kind of like I moved back to Reno, started taking college classes in photography, and then I just kind of was like, I'm just gonna do this, and yeah, I've been doing it since. So
What was it like transitioning from Reno to LA?
the transition, I think a lot of people say like LA is like, if you're new to LA, it's like hard to make friends here. which makes sense to me. It's like people are kind of flaky and like no one wants to drive far and like, you know. But like the transition was overwhelming. Like LA is such a bigger city than Reno, like tiny little Reno. And there's so many different places, there's so many little cities, and you know, luckily though I started at art center, so I mean it was like a whole new world of like people that I had all this stuff in common with. So it was great. Yeah, so that definitely helped the transition, for sure.
We wanted to know, in your opinion, what separates beauty photography from fashion photography for you?
I mean, it's obviously like the clothes. I mean, beauty is about the skin, like the makeup or the lack of makeup, you know, and it's more macro, I guess. Like, it just depends, too, whether you're shooting, like, I also consider, like, hair as part of beauty. So, you know, it's about the focus of, like, the skin, the hair, you know, what lipstick she's wearing, what are the trends, everything like that. And, I mean, you can have clothing in beauty, in a beauty shoot, but it's just kind of, like, a secondary element.
Well, what do you love most about beauty photography?
I think it's like the emotions is a big one. I mean, with beauty, it's so tight. And like I always tell models, it's like, you know, we're only shooting here, like it has to be in here. And like the emotion, I love the details. You know, I love the color that you can have, or like it being completely natural. How is like the hair moving? Just those different kind of aspects. Yeah, I love it.
How do you direct someone when it is only like so tight and so close? Like, what are your tips for that?
I mean, I think everyone has like their different style as far as like how they direct. I'm more hands off. I don't like giving every single direction unless you need it. So I'm not like, okay, like, you know, put your hand right here and like do this. And like, I feel like it becomes very robotic instead of more free of like, what do you want to do? Like, I love working with the models that move just like freely instead of more like rigid. I mean, that's fine too, but like, you know, it's just kind of like you notice as soon as you take the photo, it's just like pose, 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 versus like there's, you know, the other models where it's just more like a dance. And I love that. So, I mean, as far as like directing and everything too, like, I mean, I do direct. I think it's more like the connection though between like me and the model, and, you know, having a level of being comfortable and then like verbally telling them like what I'm looking for and kind of letting them take the control.
I like that.
Yeah. And when you're shooting beauty, is it, I mean, I've on some fashion shoots, it's, you know, it may be high shutter rate or so, they're just spraying, getting that motion. Is that come into play also with beauty photography, or is it more kind of, is it slowed down, I guess you say, are you?
I mean, I guess it depends on like the connection between me and the model, because sometimes like it is like they are doing kind of like this flowy motion, and I'm always like, do what you want to do, I will catch up to you, you know. So I'm just like waiting for the moment of like the hairstylist is, you know, fanning the hair, and I'm waiting for the hair to be like in that perfect moment, and then I'm catching it. Yeah, so I guess it just depends. Yeah, it depends. Sometimes I'm slow, sometimes I'm like shooting too fast. I don't know. Yeah, I guess it depends on the moment.
Yeah.
But I really loved what you said on your About page about how you photographed how you feel. Can you tell us more about that?
Yeah, I guess it's kind of like I think a lot of people are like this. It's very much like about the seasons of like feeling like spring and everything is, you know, the flowers are coming out and, you know, the sun's shining and it's been gloomy forever. Like just now we just like, you know, ended this rainy period. And I'm very much like attach my feelings to like usually the weather or the season. LA's a little bit different. Reno, we get all 4 seasons, so it's very much like it was tied to that. I'm still like that too, but you know, I really go off of how I feel, like whether like the sun's shining or it's like more gloomy and cozy. I like tend to go towards like darker a darker mood in the wintertime versus like in the spring and summer, more bright colors. It's more about like kind of pastels of flowers or inspiration. Yeah.
That's awesome. I just want to also follow up with, because we love emotion. Like your images have a lot of emotion in them, and for the most part, you don't see that a lot with beauty photography. And for me, that really caught my eye in your work was the emotion to it. Can you give people your tips of how you're able to achieve that?
I mean, I guess it's probably a number of different things. It's like the connection I have with the model and making sure that like they feel comfortable. And I don't know, it's just kind of, that's a hard one just because I feel like once you start shooting, then there's just like a moment where everything clicks and you kind of like wait for that moment, and then it's just like a dance, like I feel like between me and the model and like what the hair is doing, or you know how this lipstick looks and this shot, and like you know just keep trying to keep everything consistently like moving, and them trying different poses, and you know just like kind of working with a flow, feeling the music that's on set. Yeah, so I mean, and I feel like I give like the model like the ability to just do what she's feeling versus being like, and that's like part of like directing people is like, that's why I don't like telling people exactly what to do, because they're not feeling anything. They're just trying to like do exactly what you're telling them to do, and then kind of like going blank in the head. That's how I feel like that happens. And it really depends on what you're shooting too, just because I mean, if you're just trying to show what they look like, you know, then that's just kind of like what you're gonna get. And like I look at a lot of images and say, well, I just kind of see what does the model look like versus like, oh, how does the model feel? What's like the emotion that's being portrayed?
Ooh, how do you trigger that in them?
The model? I mean, I'm not like, I just feel like I just try to communicate, and I let them do their thing, honestly. And like I do give them direction on the way, but I'm like looking in the viewfinder and I'm finding the moments. I'm looking for the moments.
So I really liked what you said about you are finding the moments. And that feels like what separates a lot of people from being like a good photographer to like a great photographer, because it seems like that's something you can't teach, right?
True.
Yeah.
Yeah, I'd say that. I mean, it's also just, I think, shooting a lot and having like the set experience. You know, it's just like there's so many people on set to even like a test shoot. Like I just do my test shoots at home, and I love that. Like I love being able to be like, do you want coffee? Like how can I make you feel comfortable in my house? You know, here are my dogs running around, all that stuff. So.
Yeah.
So
Yeah, I mean, I guess I just like kind of take the opportunity to like try to get to know them, and then you know, like once we're on set, it's just like you start out, and sometimes you know it doesn't work out the first look, and every time I edit, like make my selects, I always start from the end.
Oh.
Instead of, because this is like you're warming up at the top, you know, like in the beginning you're just warming up and you're finding each other's pace, and like, you know, it's like you have to be in sync too. And I've noticed too that there's some people that I work with, we're just like never in sync. It's like when I take a photo, they're blinking or they're moving. They don't like wait, we're not like dancing together. So it's just like about trying to like warm each other up and be on the same page. And I mean, most of the time it works out, but sometimes it's just like, we're just not in sync, you know, and that's okay. You just shoot through it, and it works out, you know, you find something, there's something in there. So, yeah.
What are some important things that a new beauty photographer should know? Like what could you tell, essentially, not bump my mic. What's something that you could, if you wish you could tell your younger self before you really got into it, or when you first started, what's something you could tell you?
Yeah, probably like it's gonna take some time to get there. Just shoot like a lot. Shoot a lot, know what the trends are. Go into Sephora, like go look at what people are doing, you know, and there's beauty trends all the time. What skincare brands are out there? you know, what are they shooting? I feel like too, like the biggest thing is if you're not feeling 100% sure of like what you're trying to shoot, and think about like what clients do you want to shoot for. Like that's like a advice that I like to give is like make a list of like who your dream clients are and shoot for them. Otherwise, I feel like, you know, you kind of tend to be like all over the place, because even though beauty is this, there's a lot of things that you can do, but you have to kind of figure out like what is working and what doesn't work. Another thing is, I think, really being in sync with your team. Don't walk away from set. Like that was like kind of my big mistake when I first started with, was like I would put together mood boards and references, but then, you know, you walk away and then you come back and you're like, what? Like, what's this look?
Oh, yeah.
You know, like what happened? And it's like, you can't change it because time's running out. Like you're on the last look. Like, you know, you just have to, I guess you just convert it to black and white later. You know, because it's like you don't want to show the modeling agency the shot, like, you know, and like you're responsible for directing the shoot and like what do you want to do, what looks do you want. And also it's like, yeah, I'm directing too, but like it's important to have a good team. And that's like another thing is like test with a lot of people and see who you sync with. You know, make sure that your personalities match up, make sure the taste level is there, and you know, it is a collaboration. So, you know, test a lot, shoot with good people. If it doesn't work out, then there's always like the next shoot. No one has to see that shoot. So.
Just archive
Yeah.
it.
And then for beauty photography, are your clients that you're looking for generally makeup brands, or are there other brands out there that clients you would like?
Makeup, hair. I love shooting hair, skincare. Yeah. Those are kind of like the brands I'm looking for. I also shoot jewelry too a little bit as well. So there's always kind of like different things you can go into.
Nail too, right?
Yes,
Yeah.
nails. I kind of just started shooting still life a little bit with hand models.
Cool.
Which has been really fun. Yeah. So.
And there's a million skincare, makeup, hair, nail. There's a million of them.
The beauty industry is booming right now. There's so many independent brands. I mean, people are being aware of like what they're putting on their skin, as they should, you know? I mean, different regulations as far as like the US market versus European markets, China's market. It's really interesting, and I try to do as much research as I can. Yeah. Like I try to stay away too from like companies that aren't cruelty free,
Right.
you know, that test on animals. And I mean, I think that's like part of my job is like doing the research. Yeah.
When you focus on shooting beauty so much, does that affect like your personal life? Like, is your morning routine like next level?
Yeah. Does that change?
I mean, yeah, like I love makeup. I'm like a skincare fanatic. I love researching new brands, trying new things. I'll get a lot of gifts from clients or from makeup artists and stuff like that. And yeah, I think it has elevated me. Like, yeah, like when I'm on set, I like totally ask like my makeup artist or hairstylist, like, okay, so like, what can I do in this situation? Like, can you like, you know, how do I apply this on? Yeah, I mean, it definitely has elevated, and I'm okay with it.
So we want to also talk about how you also shoot motion.
Okay, I mean, yeah, so motion is in high demand right now, especially a lot of people expect you to do stills and motion. I actually work with my friend who I met at Art Center, you know, like I think that was 8 years ago. He's one of my first friends, but we collaborate on a lot. And he used to be a still shooter, and now he has moved into like video. So we've been collaborating a lot. I usually am the one that comes up with like the concepts and directs, and then, you know, but we do collaborate. We're like basically siblings, and we fight a lot. So, and we are very like have strong opinions on things and like what the concept is. And yeah, it's great to have someone to kind of like knock ideas back and forth and be like, does this work, or is this just like, do we kill this? Yeah. So yeah, we collaborate a lot together. And so am not the one actually shooting the video or editing. He is, but we kind of like talk as far as like what we are wanting out of the shoot.
So how are you able to juggle directing both? Because you're shooting stills at the same time as, and then he's capturing motion and you're directing him as well, correct?
Yeah, it's a lot.
Yeah.
It adds like a whole different element. So it's just like a lot of like planning and scheduling and trying to be on time and move through the shoot, because it does that additional element. Yeah, it adds time, and it's like another thing to think about. You know, stills versus motion. It's completely different. Yeah.
It almost seems like it's just so obviously overwhelming, but also like it cuts into your shooting time, correct? Yeah. So you're having to go faster on stills.
Yeah.
And then switch your brain and direct motion, right? Yeah. Is there ever a time you do stills and shoot the video yourself, or is it always you as a team with somebody?
I did in the beginning, but I don't anymore, just because, you know, like you don't want to stretch yourself too thin, too. It's just like, also another thing I gave up was retouching, because it was like cutting into like, I'm a shooter, like I'm a creative shooter, and being able to kind of step back and say, you know, this is what I want to focus on. I think a lot of people have a hard time letting it go, and I had like a really hard time like letting go of like I want control of everything, you know. But being able to step back and kind of let go gives you the ability to like focus on other, like the creative of the shoot, instead of feeling overwhelmed with all the other things that are happening.
You partially did answer this. I was curious if you still did test shoots. But I was curious, how do you go about building one out and your creative process there?
Yeah, so usually I have like a concept in mind as far as like what I want to do, what's like the concept, what's the story, and then I'll pull references, I put in a mood board together, and then, you know, I kind of pick my team based on like what it is, because hair and makeup, they usually have their own strengths as far as like what their specialty is, so I'll kind of like pick who I feel like would best execute. And then after that, so I make sure everyone's booked, and then I pull model packages, and then, you know, make sure we're all on the same team. I'm like very collaborative. I'm not like the kind of photographer where I'm like, here's a model, you didn't get a say in anything. I just want to make sure like everyone's inspired by the person that we're working with.
Which is, I think, super important for test shoots, because I mean, who's going to work for free unless they get something out of
Exactly.
it?
Yeah.
How do you market yourself? How do you get your name out there?
I mean, social media, I do get work from social media. I also do email newsletter promos that I send out to like like a client list. And then also like my agents are a big part of like promoting. Yeah. So it's just like never ending, you know, and like I do try to do meetings in person with potential clients, and I have a printed book, and you know, you're always just kind of, it's word of mouth too. Yeah.
How often are you showing your printed book?
My agents will show it.
Ah.
So they do like meetings. I have done few meetings where I actually come in with like a printed book. Yeah. Or like I'll go buy an iPad if I like haven't had the time to print it and fully update it. Yeah. But it's always kind of like, that is like a whole question too, is like printed versus iPad,
Right.
and what is, you know, do people even want to see printed books? I think everyone will have like a different opinion on that.
Oh yeah, definitely. We've run across, everybody has an opinion on that one.
Yeah, that's true. What's your opinion, though?
Yeah, what's yours?
I mean, I think nothing really beats like how print looks. It's different.
The
It's really
tactile
different.
feel. That's true.
I
Especially a
feel-
nice bound
Yeah, they're
portfolio
nice.
is really cool.
And they're slower. People like don't do the scroll super
Right.
fast or swipe, and they take time and they appreciate it. It seems like they do. It seems like it's slower.
I think so. I mean, there's something about printed, especially in this like digital age. It's like more special, I think. And it's a lot more work too. Yeah, I mean, like I do my own printing, and it's like, you know, color matching, you know, making, you know, multiple test prints. It's like ton, yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's a lot of
So
work.
But the payoff is good. I mean, otherwise, just stick it on an iPad, I guess, you know?
Right.
Right.
But like, you know, printed is beautiful. I feel like if your work is good, it's good. It's not gonna like, I mean, if your work is just like bad, it doesn't matter if it's on an iPad or a print. Like,
Right.
it's just like, it's really too about the quality of your work.
So you mentioned you have a rep. You have 2 photo reps or 1 rep?
I just signed to my new agency in December. So it's brand new. Yeah. And then I was with my previous rep for, I don't know, 2 years? Something like that, yeah.
How did the first one find you?
I think it was word of mouth. Yeah. Yeah, and then we met for, I think, like 3 years before she signed me. Yeah.
And kind of built the relationship
Yeah.
there.
I mean, I don't know if people know, but like having an agent is like dating.
Oh.
Yeah, I'm not sure if people have said that, but like that's what I compare it to. Like a lot of people compare it to, and like having like it like having agents and stuff. It's definitely, and like the whole courting process of like, do we fit? It's all like dating. Yeah, I always tell people that. I'm like, make sure you like them. Like, make sure that like they're fighting for you and paying attention to you.
That's awesome.
Yeah. And if like the vibe isn't there, then it's probably not going to work out. So be aware of that. Yeah.
A lot of people think that they need a photo agent to get work. Would you say it's the other way around? You need to have work to get a photo agent?
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah. I think that's a very common thing that people think, that like, okay, like I think my work is good, so I need to find an agent so that they can get me work. And it's really like not like that. You know, it should be like a mutual thing. Like they're bringing you work and you're bringing them work.
Thanks for joining us on Photowrk.
Stay tuned for part 2, where Joy shares with us her tips on what it takes to make it as a beauty photographer.